Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome all of you to the Abington Township Economic Development Committee. This is a special meeting that we're holding this evening. Normally we have our meetings on the first Tuesday of every month at 7:30 a.m., and we'd be happy to have you come to a 7:30 a.m. meeting if you'd like to join us at any point in time. Some of you may not be familiar with the Economic Development Committee, so I thought I'd just give you a brief overview of what this committee is comprised of. It is a board-appointed committee. We are all volunteers. There are 15, excuse me, there are 15 members of the committee. We have standing representation from Penn State, from the Abington School District, from the Eastern Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, the Glenside Chamber of Commerce, and Abington Hospital. Then the other 10 or so members are appointed at large by the commissioners. We serve 3-year terms, and so this committee is a group of all volunteers for the most part, and because we're appointed by the board, we're serving as an advisory committee to the board on economic issues that occur here in the township. Our primary focus is to encourage and advocate for responsible economic development, which would result in jobs and potential tax revenue for the township. So with that as a background, our meeting tonight is really to focus on one item on the agenda, and that is the intersection of Old York Road and Susquehanna, the northwest corner of that intersection. We have applied for a series of grants, which you'll hear about, and at our last committee meeting, we actually had a review of a presentation on this subject, and we made some refinements to that presentation. So committee members, please take note. I think you all have a copy of it in front of you. Any of you in the audience, if you'd like a copy, there are copies on this front table if you'd like to follow along, or you can follow along on the PowerPoint presentation. There's a group of people that have been actively involved in working on this project for the last several years. From the committee, we have Jim Marshall. From the township staff, Tara Waymeyer, who's the assistant township manager, and Larry Mateo, who's in charge of code enforcement. And then from the commissioners in Ward 11, we have our own John Spiegelman, and from Ward 7, we have Commissioner Ben Sanchez. So this group, this team, has worked hard on this specific project and has achieved a number of things in the last 18 months or so. And at this point in time, I'd like to call on Tara Waymeyer to make a presentation for all of us so that we can get a good sense of where we are at this juncture. And following Tara's presentation, we'll provide an opportunity for questions and comments, first by the Economic Development Committee members, then by any board of commissioner members that may be here this evening, and then finally there would be time for the public. And I guess the standing rule in the township meetings is that any public comment would be limited to 3 minutes. So with that, I'm going to ask Tara if you wouldn't mind taking over and starting our presentation.
Great. Thank you, Doug. And thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it. As Doug mentioned, this is a project that a team of us have been working on for well over a year and a half. So we are very excited to be at the point in the juncture right now to be able to present this. For those of you that don't have hard copies, you can take a look at either of the screens. This intersection of York and Susquehanna, when we found out about the multimodal grants, this was, come on in and have a seat. The Multimodal also Act 89, also known as the Transportation Bill, this was enacted in 2013 by, at the time, Governor Corbett. And this was to provide grants to encourage economic development and to ensure that a safe and reliable system of transportation is available to residents of the Commonwealth. Projects would be related to streetscapes, sidewalk enhancements, and pedestrian safety. So once we learned about this, and we thought, what's more perfect than this intersection of York and Susquehanna? It's right in the middle of the township. It is the gateway when you're traveling through Old York Road. So not only everyone is residents, but we have just so much traffic coming through this, as we're all well aware. So we went ahead and we applied for two grants, two multimodal grants. The first grant would be to acquire some properties, and the second grant would be to help and realign the intersection. And I'll go through that in more detail. So what we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to review the current conditions that we have today. We're going to talk about the future planned improvements. We're going to talk about the grants in more detail and the cost summary, and also collaboration efforts that we'd like to do with the Montgomery County Redevelopment Authority. And then we'll talk about future next steps. So this, if you take a look, this is the intersection we're talking about here, York and Susquehanna, and this highlights the northwest corner of the intersection. And you'll see here the corner itself, it juts out abruptly into the intersection. It's a very blighted area. It's unsightly. Again, you know, when we're proud of our township, and when you drive through the township, it's just not visually what you want to see or what you want to look at. The intersection itself is not aligned, so it creates unsafe, unfriendly conditions for cars, trucks, bus passengers, pedestrians, bicyclists. The cars itself at this intersection, they move slowly. It takes forever, as we all know, to make any kind of turns at this intersection. There's long backups that are frequent throughout the day, but especially during rush hours. And therefore, people just really just try to avoid the intersection as a whole. Here's another picture when we discuss trucks. Trucks coming southbound on York Road are not able to make a right-hand turn onto Susquehanna. So what do? They either illegally make that turn, which causes sometimes for them to get stuck. If they realize they can't turn, then they're forced to go through back streets within the neighborhoods, which, as you can imagine, causes a mess. And if there's ever deliveries that come through, you'll see here is a picture of the Vintage restaurant that we're all familiar with. If a truck's coming down to make a delivery at the Vintage, there's nowhere for them to park. There's no space. So they are impeding on the right-hand traffic lane. So that's another reason why the traffic backs up there. You'll see here, too, the sidewalks. They're about 18 inches. It's not ADA accessible. It's not wide enough for someone pushing a stroller. It's not wide enough for two people standing side by side. So if someone is there at the SEPTA bus station to wait for the bus, they're fearing for their life because it's frightening. We've spent a lot of time down in this intersection, so I can say even for myself, staying in that corner or walking along the sidewalk, it really is frightening. It's just unsafe. This is an overview highlight of the area, and you'll see in yellow, that's the 5 properties that we were talking about acquiring within this grant. And you can see here from this view, too, of York and Susquehanna, just how realigned it is. You can see it almost even better here. So this area here, these are the properties that we're speaking of, and the intersection as a whole. Once we're able to get this properly realigned, then it'll fix that northwest corner. It'll create an intersection that's welcoming and functioning to the cars, trucks, pedestrians, bus passengers, and bicyclists. And it would increase efficiency, usability, and ensure a safe and reliable system of transportation, which, going back to the multimodal grant, that's what it emphasizes. So we highlighted that, and we're happy that with being awarded these grants, we have the support from DCD and PennDOT, because they believe in our vision as well. We've had this intersection studied quite a few times, and some recommendations that we've gotten from these studies. In 2009, there's a study by McCormick and Taylor. We also had a study from Delaware Valley Smart Growth. Both highlights from there needing to the intersection needs to be reconfigured. Economic development, which follows smart growth principles. Some recommendations from those studies are what exactly what we put into the grant to try to get feedback and support from that. To revise the physical configuration of the intersection, to reshape the edge of the northwest corner that we spoke of, to complement and build upon the existing intersection, and overall to enhance the pedestrian environment. So what's the plan for the future? This concept plan here that you see, this shows once the intersection is realigned how it would look. So you can see with the crosswalks how it's people can bike and safely cross the intersection. Right now, we have bike lanes on Susquehanna Road, which currently they don't connect because of the misalignment, so that would help with that. We talked about the existing tight turning radiuses and how you can't turn onto Susquehanna when you're going southbound. This realignment would increase the turning radius of the intersections. This circle you see here, this is once the blighted buildings are acquired and demolished, it would open up that area. We'd put benches in there, it would have bus shelters, and just create a nice plaza to open it up. So when people are driving through the township, it's a gateway to revitalize the area as a whole. This is grant summary of the two grants that I spoke of. Grant 1, which is the CFA DCED Multimodal Fund grant. That grant is for the acquisition and demolition of the properties. The PennDOT grant is for the road improvements. And then at the bottom, you'll see the totals and the 30% township match, which the township would be obligated to pay, for a total of a little over $2 million for the full project. This highlights more the sources and use. So you can see the numbers, the real estate and acquisition, and these came directly from having appraisals done. We had someone come out for the demolition to get quotes from there, and also the road work to get dollars and quotes, which we had to submit with the grants. So again, you can see the total use funds and the total sources, how they match. Spoke about the Montgomery County Redevelopment Authority. Part of the process would be to collaborate and work together with the RDA. They're the experts in the redevelopment, and they would be able to assist the project team that we have in getting the properties under agreement as we move forward. So what are our next steps? Our next steps, and this is part of tonight what the Economic Development Committee would do, is to offer their support for the Economic Development Committee to push forth to the Board of Commissioners and to recommend the acceptance of the two grants we spoke of, and also to go into a cooperation agreement with the RDA. And this presentation, if anyone's interested, if anyone didn't get hard copies, here's a URL. I'll keep this up. If anyone's interested to download or print yourselves, this is where you can get a copy of the presentation. Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Tara. What I'd like to do now is ask the committee members if they have any questions or want to offer any comments regarding the presentation and any of the details of what Tara has just reviewed with us. Rich?
Thank you, Doug. I have two quick questions, I guess. One, for the township match, the 30%, that's of each piece, correct? So does it, like when they do the acquisition, that's when we have to have the first part of the 30% match? Is
Yes.
it's an allocated number between the two?
Yes.
Okay. And then, and that intersection is also the intersection that has the red light camera district, red light camera?
Correct.
Is that something, if they realign, because I know one of the concerns was that safety of that corner in terms of visibility and everything else, is it possible that the red light cameras will not be put back in, or will they definitely be put back in? Do we know?
The intent would be for them to be put back in.
Put back in, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments by the committee? Okay. I know there's some commissioners that have attended tonight, and I know that some might want to make a comment or have an offering. So if anyone would like to make a comment, raise their hand, and feel free to come forward. Let us know who you are and perhaps what ward you represent. It's kind of a reverse role here, I see.
Good evening. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of for myself as Commissioner of Ward 5 and Board President. What I saw this evening...
Just so everybody knows, this is Wayne Luker.
I'm sorry, Wayne Luker. Thank you.
Who's the President of the Board of Commissioners?
Thank you. Hi, Jay. What I saw this evening is exactly what I think the Commissioners empowered the Economic Development Committee to do. And this is, to me, a prime example of why you're here, and I think, as a whole, you've done an excellent job on this presentation. I hope that my comments will resonate with my fellow commissioners. The importance of this project as it relates to the future economic growth of Abington is unparalleled. To my knowledge, this would be the first project of this magnitude in Abington Township involving a partnership with the Redevelopment Authority. It is imperative that we, the commissioners, get behind and give support to this project. The time is right, and I think the window of opportunity could close quickly, and if we continue to wait for the perfect combination of funding, business opportunity, and redevelopment expertise to come together, we will come to live with a problematic intersection which is obsolete, dangerous, and difficult to navigate efficiently and safely. So to me, this is a new beginning, and I think it's imperative that the Board of Commissioners get behind and support the work that you folks have so eloquently portrayed tonight and worked so very diligently for the last year and a half to produce. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of myself and my fellow commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can just make a comment as a commissioner. So my name is Michael Markman. I'm the Ward 2 Commissioner, and I'm actually the liaison to the Economic Development Authority. So I kind of have a dual role here. The one thing I want people to keep in mind is oftentimes we take grants and we have matches as a township, and there's never an opportunity to get that match back. The unique situation here is that there is going to be ground that potentially could be developed in the future. So the $600,000 would be going out from the township.
Right.
There will be an opportunity to get either the full or part of that $600,000 back in the future. So it's almost putting it out there. You're putting out $600,000. You're getting $2 million in value for that, and potentially $600,000 or a portion of that back in the future. That ground is going to be open. It's going to be usable at some point, and it's going to make the other ground put in a position where it can be developed more readily. So it's not a permanent $600,000 that goes away from the township. So just keep that in mind, that a portion of that will most likely, or all of it potentially, will most likely come back to the township at some point. So it's almost an investment in the future. And once again, that intersection is a key intersection in the township. And at a minimum, it improves the traffic, and at a maximum, it actually will make it into a much more productive, economically viable intersection.
Doug, if I could say something as well? Sorry.
Yes, Randy, go right ahead.
Maybe we should back up a little bit as well, because we didn't talk about the reason that this whole project came to fruition was that the buildings became available. So we're sitting here silent that we've discussed this for over a year. So the board, this committee completely understands this project and the reason that this came to fruition. But two of the projects, or two of the buildings and properties, became available because they were available for purchase, what they had never been for all these years. And so that's when you guys started looking at the grants and figuring out what we can do, because this has been an intersection that's been on the books to be reworked for many, many years. But that's how this all came to fruition, and that's where it all started, with the two grants being made for the multimodal. So
Yeah, that's a good clarification. Thanks, Randy.
And I think that's very important what the young lady just said, because I think in closing, I just wanted to give kudos to Commissioner Spiegelman, who's here this evening, Commissioner Sanchez, Commissioner Michael Markman, who just spoke, of course, State Representative Madeline Dean, who's represented right here, Assistant Township Manager Tara Waymeyer, and Jay Listener, who's the architect for the project. So again, on behalf of the commissioners, at least for myself, and I'm going to arm twist the rest of the 14 commissioners to support this project so we can get it done in a timely manner. Thank you.
Appreciate your help.
Thank you, Wayne.
Other commissioners? Yes.
Do I have to adhere to a 3-minute time limit?
Yes.
Yes. I second that.
Your reputation precedes you.
For the folks here who don't know, I'm John Spiegelman, Commissioner of Ward 11, and welcome to Ward 11. That's where we're all sitting right now. And I really wanted to thank the EDC for hosting tonight, and for all of your support and invaluable feedback, and frankly, some very tough love throughout this project. I mean, you bring a lot of expertise, and you really helped us focus and streamline throughout this entire project. And of course, President Luker, thank you so much for for your kind words and support. And it's so heartening to see so many folks out here. It's really exciting because I'll tell you, this project has always been, and I think is intended to always be, one that starts from a resident and community focus, from the perspective of residents, from the perspective of folks who live near the intersection and in neighborhoods throughout the township, the folks who, many of us, all of us who drive through there or avoid it every day. And that's really been the starting point. And there's been so much great feedback from neighbors, from everybody in the township. And in fact, even before this project started, I think there was a real impetus from people talking about, hey, wouldn't it be great if this intersection would change, or this intersection is driving me completely crazy. So that's really been so much of the spirit that's infused this whole endeavor. So really, in many ways, for the folks here tonight and moving forward, because there are going to be many other meetings like this as we move forward. I mean, really, you all are, in no small way, part of the team that's made this happen. And just by being here and being engaged like this, you really help move this forward and help us keep this resident and community focused. So one of the other things I wanted to say is one of the things we're really hoping for is that the positive change to this intersection will have an equally positive ripple effect on traffic throughout the area, throughout the center of town. As a lot of people know, people approaching Old York Road and Susquehanna, some of them go through it and, mutter and curse to themselves. They sit forever to make a left-hand turn. Some of them, though, avoid the intersection altogether. And when folks avoid the intersection, I'm sure everyone here has done this. If you're on Susquehanna and you're going eastbound, you turn onto Highland Avenue. If you're on Susquehanna going westbound, you turn onto Huntington Road. And for the folks who live on those streets, that creates a whole other massive set of problems. I know, representing the folks on Highland Avenue, on the 1900 block of Guernsey, on Rockwell Road, that's a very busy part of town anyway. And so you have so many people who are trying to avoid Old York and Susquehanna and end up getting back onto Old York Road at Highland Rockwell and 611, and it's truly a nightmare. So hopefully that's just one of the positive ripple effects that will come from this project. But again, I just really want to thank everyone so much for coming out, and many, many thanks to State Rep Madeline Dean and Kathleen Joyce, her district director, because frankly, I mean, this part of the reason this multimodal funding and Act 89 even exists are passionate support from state reps like Madeline Dean. Without her advocacy, this whole mechanism of funding wouldn't even exist. Act 89 wouldn't have even happened. And of course, the advocating for us to get these grants and to push the various grantors to finally make their announcements so we could move forward. So absolutely invaluable help. So thank you everybody.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Doug. Any other commissioners have any comments or questions?
Stephen Klein, Ward 1, and I also wanted to commend the EDC on the work that you guys have done. I've seen this project come along. So I did have a few questions, and I think some of these have been talked about. What's the size of the property that will be left after the road improvements? Of the size of the property that properties we're acquiring, and how much will be left after the road improvements?
You mean in terms of like acreage or square footage?
Yeah, either way.
Do you have those numbers in front of you tonight?
Size of the whole property?
Just the five properties that we're talking about.
No.
We'll have to get back to you on that question.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, Stephen, but I can get that for you.
I have it somewhere. I don't have it off the top of my head.
So do we have an estimated value of what the leftover property will be? Have we had anybody give an idea of appraisal for what that property will be?
Well, we've had appraisals on the 5 properties to be acquired.
Right now I'm talking about what's left over.
And so we have a gross value, but we have not had an appraisal done on the net remaining property.
Have we done any test fits as to what could be done on the leftover property?
That property, at this stage, we're not envisioning doing anything other than those site improvements that Tara referred to in terms of the bus station and I think there might have been some park
Have-
benches and things of
Yeah,
that
to have a
nature.
plaza, to have benches and bus shelters for where those 5 properties are.
So we're talking about, so that's going to eat away as to whatever we can sell back of whatever's left over of those 5 properties after the road improvements? So you're going to have some kind of plaza right on the corner? Is that what, I mean, I think that's what I remember seeing in some of the
Right.
stuff. Okay. I guess what I'm really looking for is to get an understanding. I mean, we're talking about 2 PennDOT roads, and I've said this before in the conversations. Personally, I'm a little apprehensive about spending money to fix 2 PennDOT roads, township funds, so I'd really like to understand what the net gain for the township is and how long it's going to take us to recoup the value. So obviously, we're spending $600,000. We're going to get some money back, as Commissioner Markman had said when the outsale. I'd like to know what that number is so I can understand what the ROI is on the investment and how long it takes through taxes and, you know, real estate taxes, if there's any increase or decrease, if there's employment taxes, BPT taxes that come up, and understand how long it's going to take for the township to recoup funding that we're basically fixing PennDOT roads. So I just want, that's the kind of, those are the information that I'm trying to wrap my head around and understand. Have we had any conversations with the additional properties to try to create a little bit more of a critical mass?
Yes. John, you want to respond to that?
And where are we with that? You can have the mic.
Commissioner Klein makes a very cogent point with regard to the PennDOT roads. We do actually, and I know Jim Marshall will correct me if I'm wrong, we did actually get a rough land valuation assessment of about, was it $450,000?
Yeah.
For the land itself, basically what the township, what us, all of us, the township, the residents, the taxpayers, would own after these properties are acquired and torn down and the plaza constructed. And I know, I believe it's a somewhat conservative estimate, but it's about $450,000. With regard to the issue of the, actually getting back to, I'll take Commissioner Klein's second question first. With regard to discussions with surrounding property owners, there's absolutely been a dialogue with not only the current property owners, but also property owners throughout the corner about future plans, about knowing that we're going to be partnering with the RDA, and the RDA will ultimately be extremely helpful in finding finding a developer, a right-sized developer to develop the corner. So yes, there absolutely have been there's been significant dialogue with the surrounding property owners. With regard to the question of the 2 PennDOT roads, again, it is a really good point. Why are we doing PennDOT's work for them? As I know, as District Director Joyce could elaborate on in greater detail. About to put her on the spot. PennDOT improvements of this nature are done through something called the TIP. That's PennDOT's Transportation Improvement. Is it program or protocol? Program. Transportation Improvement Program. In order, there's a very long process to actually getting a project on PennDOT's TIP. It's sort of on their lineup of projects. And if we were to go that route, assuming that we did actually get PennDOT to say, okay, yes, we're going to put this on our list of things that we, PennDOT, will eventually fund, we would be talking, this really isn't an exaggeration, anywhere from 10 to 15 to even 20 years before it would even happen. And so, I mean, in an ideal world, it would be a lot faster. But, I think because a lot of other stars are aligning, I think it's
Hey, John,
frankly better to be proactive.
Do me one favor. Put on the current conditions slide. I just want to
Sure.
kind of talk about something for a second. So,
Which picture? Just tell me which
current
picture.
conditions. Next one.
This one?
No, the one with it shows the aerial.
The aerial.
Shows the aerial. That one.
one?
That's good. So basically, and I, the reason I became a commissioner, I haven't been a commissioner that long, is primarily to help the township work on its commercial corridors. Because the way we work right now is, there's obviously a big burden on the taxpayers and the homeowners. And the problem we have in Abington Township, unfortunately, is we have a lot of very narrow lots. A lot of Old York Road has been developed as home sites. There's only a few deeper lots if you look at Old York Road. So what we're presented with here is actually probably two of the busiest roads in all of Abington Township. So probably one of the most ripe areas for potential commercial development in the whole township. Unfortunately, it was developed at a time when stuff was built right on the road. So you have this property here that's there and will impede the ultimate development of the whole property or a portion of the property in the back because you have this corner here. You're taking, this is a resource that we potentially have in the future. And keep in mind, if you have more commercial development, you have tax base based in commercial, it puts less money on the residents and less burden on the residences. So yes, I am in fact hoping to get something back for the corner. But in the event we don't get anything back for the corner, and we have a $600,000 investment in improving one of the primary intersections in the whole township, what you're doing is you're opening up the corner and you're allowing other developers or people to have some sort of vision to be able to develop what goes on in the back and potentially increase the tax base for that. So it's a moment in time. We have gotten mostly state money. There is $600,000 we have to fund. I'm also a real estate developer, so I'm fairly certain that there will be some value here that a developer will pay for at some point in time. Will it be $600,000? I don't know, but it'll be at least a portion of that. So let's say someone comes and pays $200,000 or $300,000. For $300,000, you are opening up one of the primary commercial corners in the whole township and allowing a future potential development of the site. So as far as health, safety, welfare, economic development in the township, in my mind, it's a lot of bang for the buck. And this whole group has gotten together and, with the help from Alan Dean and with Tara's work and everybody else's work, gotten the grant money to cover the majority of that burden. So in my mind, it's just a very smart future planning, future growth. I would love for PennDOT to come and do all the work. Unfortunately, PennDOT is underfunded and not doing these kinds of projects right now. So in my mind, it's just a good investment in the future of the township.
Thank you, Commissioner Markman. I guess that's it for that question, unless, Doug, you
No, I was thinking maybe Steve might have had another question.
So, I would encourage, before we actually, I know that the multimodal grants have been awarded and we have to accept them. I would really like somebody to try to put some of those figures together. I understand the idea, but if you really, my concern is that we're talking about an intersection and, the commissioners have seen traffic figures and traffic and accident numbers because of the red light cameras. We've seen that. In my mind, the intersection is not that bad. I'm trying to wrap my head around the $600,000, what we're getting back, how long it's going to take to recoup, and what we're left with and what that's going to yield as far as development. Because you have a performing restaurant, which my understanding is, you guys probably have had more conversations with the owners or not. I don't know that they're planning on going anywhere. So chances are we're going to be a long time out for anything. So I'm really looking at the next 5 to 10 years, what's going to happen in that corner, what we're going to be left with. And, I do understand there's some value in reorienting the roads, but at the same time, PennDOT does have money, it just needs to be massaged. Obviously, they've, given us what, how much is the PennDOT grant? 1.3? 1.4. So.
Those are appropriate questions and comments, and let us work on that and get those to you as
Yeah,
well.
I'd really like to understand these numbers. We've talked about them before, sat down with Jim Marshall and John, and, those numbers were started, but I thought we were going to get a presentation, so.
Well, what we're dealing with tonight, just so you know, are the 2 grants that we've received. And so the broader picture that you refer to can't really be addressed at this point in time until we know whether we would have an additional grant that might come along for other acquisitions that could occur.
Yeah, but I get that. This is a jumping point.
Correct.
I'd like to understand a little bit more as to what the figures might be, even on just the short term, even just looking at these 5 properties. I'm not necessarily even concerned about whether we do anything larger or whether there's additional acquisitions. Let's just go on the assumption that you just have these 5 properties. What are we getting in the back end? What are we left with out of pocket, and how long does it take to recoup that based on what the test fit, what the economic development might be on that property? So, we know there's very little that's coming out of those 5 properties now.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that as the committee's looked at this, if we were just to acquire those 5 properties and do the PennDOT improvements that we've talked about tonight, the odds are there would not be any additional development that would occur on that parcel of ground. It's probably too small, just like it's too small now to be a viable operating business. And so until we have a better picture of what the third grant might be, it's going to be difficult to anticipate timelines. We can anticipate what the revenues could be. I think we've looked at that, but it'd be difficult to anticipate the timeline until we know whether the other grant might be approved.
And that's another multimodal grant that we put in for.
Correct.
And that's to fund what?
That would fund some additional acquisition along York Road there, and do some additional road improvements, not really road improvements, more sidewalk improvements, because that sidewalk, as you know, going along York Road is very narrow,
Right.
almost all the way up to where that new Jimmy John's restaurant is.
Right. Which is why, I mean, the restaurant becomes key,
Right,
because
and
that's
that's-
actually the closest building to the street.
Right, and I think, as John indicated, there have been conversations with those owners, but it's premature to identify exactly what we might be able to do until we know whether we have money to deal with those owners.
Okay.
Thank you, though. Any other commissioners have any questions or comments? Because I'm sure there's some residents that might have some questions and comments. Okay, seeing none or hearing none, any residents that would like to speak, you please come forward to the podium, state your name and your address, and we will try to address any questions you have at this time.
What were you asking for, name and what?
Just name and address, please.
Okay. Carolyn Ming, M-I-N-G, 520 Bader Road, B-A-E-D-E-R, Jenkintown, but it's part of the township. I don't know what the design is for this plaza that you're talking about, but have you considered advertising as a stream of revenue for either your benches, side of the building, electronic, kind of non-bright electronic billboard?
You know, we haven't...
It's a good idea.
It is a good idea, and yet I don't know that the task force that's been involved in this has actually looked at any of that yet. But Tara, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, it was a great suggestion. Thank you for that. And those are certainly ideas that we're open to now moving forward. Absolutely.
Okay, well, if you're looking for steady stream, there it is.
Yeah,
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Others? Tell you what, you go first, and then the next lady may join us.
My name's Lynn Kalish. I'm at 1406 Hallman Road, Roslyn section. And I apologize, I was about 10 minutes late, so I don't know if in the first 10 minutes you discussed anything about timeline for when this project would start, how long it would take, things like that.
Do you want to address that, Tara?
Sure. With a timeline, we just received word that we did receive the 2 grants. So in November, we're going to take, as long as tonight the EDC supports moving forward to presenting, accepting the grant awards to the Board of Commissioners. That would happen in November. And if we do get acceptance from the Board of Commissioners support to move forward, then we would be able to sign agreements with both grants and then move forward. So we don't have a timeline as far as a final completion, but that would be our first initial step to move forward.
So you're not anticipating tearing down buildings and chopping up the sidewalk real soon? Or?
Not anytime soon, no.
Oh, okay.
But typically, once you sign a grant agreement, it's a typical 3-year timeframe to complete a job.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And maybe just to add on to that, there are 5 properties, and there are 4 property owners. And so there have been discussions with those property owners about their interest in perhaps selling, but there's not been any agreement to sell. And so there is still a process that we'd have to go through to put those properties under agreement, and then do the demolition, and then do the road improvements. So that, we haven't been able to put a time frame around it since we don't actually own the properties as of this point in time. Did you have a question?
So I'm sorry, my name is Cheryl Levy. I'm at 2003 Susquehanna Road, so just up the block. So timelines were actually a big part of my concern, and I just want some clarification as follow-up. From the point that the demolition and the construction starts, it's approximately 3 years that they'll be
No,
working
no, no,
done on
no.
this?
I think once the process started, do we have an estimate of how long the actual work would take?
Yeah.
We don't, but rest assured, that we'll certainly have many meetings. Commissioner Spiegelman is tremendous with his newsletters and getting the word out. So throughout the process, we'll have meetings and chance for feedback and things like that. So you won't be in the dark. It'll definitely be open in that respect.
But it won't be until a decision is made to actually start that we would know timelines?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is, I mean, just as a developer, so you would do the demolition, that wouldn't affect the road, because the key part is obviously disruption of the road that's going to be the issue. So, I mean, the demolition shouldn't take more than 3 to 4 weeks tops. It's a little touchy because you're on a site that's got active traffic on it, so you have to be careful. So I would say probably a 4-week demolition process. And then I would imagine, you know, the road work is anywhere from 2 to 4 months, and obviously it has to be done in a way that's least disruptive to the neighborhood as possible. So I can tell you right now that there's going to be nothing happening without Commissioner Spiegelman having many, many neighborhood meetings, which he's very good at, and he will inform you, and he will probably stand out there with a flag if people are upset about it. So
We won't make that part of the motion. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And just one more point of clarification, because I'm not quite understanding a little of the back and forth.
Right.
It sounds like where those 5 properties are, at least right now, you're envisioning a plaza and some benches where there would not be additional development. Yet you've brought up seeing return on that money. So I'm just not connecting those dots.
So the question is, in the long run, how is the whole property, the whole corner, going to be redeveloped? And I think in the short run, there has been a plaza and some benches planned for that. How it's developed in the long run, obviously, be if there's a developer and the commissioners and how they see it. But I think the short run goal there is to kind of open up that corner, beautify it, kind of, you know, look, you'll be able to see more possibility once that happens. So in the short run, if you look at it as a traffic improvement project, that's going to beautify that particular section of the township. In the long run, potentially as some other properties come available, redeveloping the corner in a way that makes the most sense for the residents of the township. So it's, in the long run, I think you'll see the return. In the short run, I think you're going to see some great traffic improvements and beautification efforts by the township. So it's kind of a twofold process.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Follow-up to
Rich, do you have a follow-up?
I kind of do, and I guess with the young lady asking the question, so once this is all said to go, how long till PennDOT, where are we on PennDOT's schedule to get the street work done? So if we say yes, I mean, 3 years sounds like
Yeah, I
a
think-
long-term, a long thought process, but
At the risk of maybe not answering this correctly, I have
That's
people
fine.
that can offer this, but what we're getting is a grant from PennDOT.
Right.
And once we as a township or the redevelopment authority, if we utilize the redevelopment authority,
Right.
we would contract with contractors to do the work, and then PennDOT would reimburse us.
Well, we need permits, so I
I
mean.
understand, but it's not PennDOT
It would
that's
be a
actually doing the work.
It would be a competitive bid.
Right, okay, I'm sorry. I
But
thought
you-
PennDOT was.
There's also a delay because you need a highway occupancy permit to do the road work, so it's a process. So you actually have to go and get your permit, then you have to have a contractor do the work for you.
Answers my question, thank you.
Well, I'm going to ask Liz to just expand on that, if you have anything you'd like to offer, because Liz has had a lot of experience with PennDOT over the years. This is Liz Smith, one of our committee members.
Yes, so Michael's correct. We would have, it would be, well, actually, everyone's correct. It would be a competitive contract. It would need to be bid most likely through PennDOT system. So still using their requirements, PennDOT would have a full review process of all of the plans. We may need highway occupancy permits. We'll have a reimbursement agreement with PennDOT for the funds. So that's how they kind of maintain control over the project in the process. But ultimately, it is Abington Township that is contracting with a contractor for the project.
Thank you.
Other residents, questions? Yes, sir.
George Koneski, 565 Bader Road. You had mentioned that you're in talks with the 4 property owners. What if they don't like the price being offered? What happens?
That's a
What if
risk.
they don't want to sell?
Yeah, that's certainly a risk. We've had we've been very open conversations with them about our process, the grants that we've received, the appraisal process that we went through. Each of them have different objectives, but our hope is that in all those cases that we'll be able to come to an agreement. But there is a risk that we might not be successful with one or two, or we'd have to pay more than what the appraisals would
So
indicate.
the township would be on the hook for the
No.
increase
I mean,
monies paid for the property?
if the township agreed to pay more, the township's not on the hook, so to speak, for anything. These grants that we received stipulated acquisition prices for the various properties, and we will have to have negotiations with those individual property owners and hopefully be able to acquire them at or near those prices.
So basically, what the commissioners would authorize would be a $600,000 match to these grants. So then there'd be a total budget of approximately $2 million. If the project couldn't be delivered for $2 million, it would go, either the commissioners could authorize more, or the project potentially could get abandoned because it can't be delivered within budget. So it would be at the leisure of the commissioners. The commissioners are being asked to fund the $600,000 as it looks like that's enough to do the job, and we think it's enough to do the job. If it's not, either the commissioners say we're not interested anymore, or they agree to fund more. So, and if they're not interested, it's done.
How long does the township have to come up with a solution, otherwise the grant goes away, or grants go away?
3 years.
3 years, okay.
3 years?
3 years. So that's,
If you're a betting man, what's your chances of this, of the four owners with their four different agendas saying yes and giving you guys the green light?
I give us like an 85, 90% chance right now, just because of conversations we've already had. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
A large part of that, too, is the reason that we're engaging Montgomery County Redevelopment Authority. They've had a lot of experience in doing these throughout Montgomery County and other townships, et cetera. So they offer a lot of expertise that will be used.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
If I can just quickly add to that, jump off what Jim was saying. Come on up, because I'll be so quick. I'll be done by the time you're here. George, that's an excellent question, and just to re-emphasize, this is the whole reason that we've started these conversations with the property owners and also with surrounding property owners a long time ago. We've really been trying to keep this open dialogue for exactly this reason, because it is complex to assemble a bunch of properties. But this is why we've really been trying to get ahead of it. That's all.
Mr. Koch.
I'm Gary Koch, 2028, that's K-O-C-H, 2028 Chester Avenue, Abington, PA. I'm also the property manager at Abington Presbyterian Church, which is at 1082 Old York Road, right down the street. And it's involved in this quite a bit. I want to thank John for keeping our church business involved and keeping us aware of what's going on with this intersection. We have a nursery school there that every day dumps a lot of traffic on that intersection, and also gets involved in it in different ways, as you were describing about going down to Huntington Road and turning left instead of being able to turn left. We've been aching for this improvement for ages and ages. We would love to be able to have a right turn and a left turn lane off of Susquehanna onto Old York Road. So I'm hoping that this will happen, and you have a lot of support for this from our church. We do have some concerns about the curbs and sidewalks, because along our cemetery on Susquehanna, on York Road, and on the other side of the corner house right there on Susquehanna at the intersection, we're concerned about how the sidewalks and curbs will be handled through that area in this renovation. So we have some concerns about that. So thank you.
Jim, that's a good point. Jim, do you have any comment on what's going to be happening by the corner house there on the southwest corner of where there's going to be a right turn lane, and I guess there would be some improvement on those sidewalks there? Or? Yeah,
that's all part of it. They're really, even once we approve the grant, I mean, we have a plan for the road, et cetera, but there is a lot of planning that our traffic engineer, TBD, has to actually do, that's going to, build on that, all that kind of stuff. So those the kind of questions you're talking about, Gary, are going to be, flushed out during that process, and we will be like keeping the owners, involved, et cetera, as well as on the east side of Susquehanna down by the cemetery. Those sidewalks are not in the greatest shape either.
They'll be much better.
Other resident questions? Jay?
I can speak from here because I can.
Actually, Jay, if you wouldn't mind, because this is being recorded, and if you don't speak into the microphone, it doesn't. Yeah.
I just didn't want to
For the home view.
That's okay.
All the home viewers are here, actually.
My name's Jay Leisner. That's right. My name's Jay Leisner, 748 Rodman Avenue. I'm the architect that Mr. Luca mentioned earlier, that I've been involved with some of the conceptual design issues here. And I just wanted to clarify some things for the community. I think Michael Markman explained things beautifully, as did John and others. But just so that you know, the concept of the open plaza is something that is going to be an excellent solution, we believe, as it stands, once the plaza is completed, or a way of inviting and engaging developers and others in future development. It becomes a gateway to that corner. It's a gateway to Abington. And hopefully it will be able to go ahead, as the EDC is saying, to become further developed. But even if it doesn't, the fact that currently very tight, imposing, uncomfortable corner becomes a plaza where there's active and vital things going on. It invites pedestrian traffic and pedestrian involvement, as well as a safe place to wait for buses. So it's functionally practical and aesthetically lovely, and can be very successful whether or not future development takes place.
Thank you. Very good, thanks. Thank you, Jay. Other comments? Yes.
Hi, Deb Burns, 1953 Guernsey Avenue. We have parking issues, and John knows. One of my biggest concern is you keep talking about future development. How far are you planning to develop this? And John has talked about leaving parking and leaving things. How far are you planning, future development? Are you planning to take that whole block? How far are you planning? I think that's a concern for many residents. Like, how far is this going to go?
I think we can give
I think at this point,
the corner. But you're talking
what
about
we're dealing
future.
with is more what we know. We've got the two grants. We've had some, thinking about and talking to people, et cetera. But it's too early, really, to articulate. But I think the key is that without the intersection being fixed, without the acquisition of that real estate on the corner, you have nothing. And you can't do anything. So once those steps are taken, then we can move forward, to looking at the corner. How does the northwest corner get developed? What goes on there? We need to talk to some of the owners, the restaurant, its people, et cetera, and all that is yet to be done.
I also, if I can.
Go ahead,
You
John.
know what I'm
More
talking
exercise
about. So I think
No, you're a completely valid question. So exactly what ends up happening is going to depend on how many other property owners either are eventually interested in selling, or even more, maybe even better, are interested in partnering up in a development project. But what we'd be talking about is even down the road is no bigger than the existing developed footprint. I know, for the folks, right there on the 1900 block of Guernsey, we're not talking about, expanding development, kissing up against your backyards or anything like that. The existing footprint, which, need to be significantly cleaned up, is really what we'd be talking about.
Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Joe Rozak. I live at 1927 Susquehanna Road, just on the edge of your picture over there. Believe me, that intersection needs to be fixed. It needs to. But this is a mixed blessing for me, my family. The thought of more trucks making that turn and going in front of my house and anybody else on Susquehanna, rattling my nails more, really concerns me. But I think the safety of the neighborhood in general is more important. I don't see enough details here yet for me to be saying that we're going in the right direction at this point. I don't see how it's being widened. What are the benefits of living here? I live on a very noisy street. And when I first moved here, I came here for only 5 years. I've been here since 1980. The advantage, I can walk places. But only until I had a stroller and grandchildren to walk through that intersection did I realize how dangerous it is. How dangerous it is for me to walk to the Y on the side of that cemetery there when it's icy. I can't walk through there with an umbrella because I'd have to go into the road. You're crossing over there. Cars make that turn. Trucks, so tight you can get hit just from a side view mirror. That intersection needs to be fixed. However, I need to see more details. If you fix that intersection, I still can't walk left on Susquehanna with the stroller. I can't go in front of that restaurant. I have to cross the street. It's my problem. But it is a problem. And the advantage of living here is being able to walk to the Y, to walk to the library, to go to my dentist, one of my favorite people who lives 2 doors from... All right?
Your dentist is your favorite person. He must be good.
Yeah, I tell you what, look at my smile. It's because of her. But really, I want to see more details because widening that road is going to have a big effect on my house at 1927. I'm sure it's going to have a big effect there. Just walking over here now, there's a no parking sign in front of the karate place over there. There are cars parked there. I have to go in the street to walk through there. There's a no left turn sign on Church Road onto Susquehanna. How many cars make a left turn there? Have I ever seen anybody being pulled over for it? Nope. There are a lot of details here. I would like to be part of the planning. That might be a bad thing for me to say.
That's a very appropriate request. Tara can walk us through a little bit of this detail, but this is not the detail you're referring to. This is really a sketch, kind of a concept plan.
I'd like to see more.
But we can give you more detail on what we know here if you'd like to hear that tonight.
Yeah, and thank you for your comments, because that's something that we're looking for as well. You know, we're a team working hard on this, but it's important to have feedback from a resident, and it's going to impact you every day. So, and the way you described it, mixed blessings, that's certainly it. The drawing here, this concept plan was created from traffic planning and design. We did have a traffic study done on this to highlight all of the issues you just spoke of, to make it more walking friendly, to be able to cross the road safely, to be able to walk down the street. I like how you said that too, with an umbrella. You know, we say you can't walk side by side, you can't walk with a stroller, can't walk, ADA accessible. Make a great point. You can't even walk with an umbrella. But that's what this will do. All of those things were taken into consideration. So the sidewalks will be wide enough to do that. And it's hard to see on this, and maybe if you want to share your email after the meeting, share your email address with me, I'd be happy to give you a copy of this so you can see, because there is a legend up in the top, and you can see it's color coded, and you can have different. It's a 25-foot turning radius on the one corner, 50-foot on another, and the sidewalks are all going to be wide enough to be ADA accessible.
And if I can. If I can just add real quickly, too, if you look at it with the intersections, with the road improvements, I mean, it really has a dramatic effect on the health, safety, and welfare of the residents in the area. And it's good to hear from the church, and it's good to hear from neighbors, because what our intention is to make it, much like a bike lane makes riding bikes safer, this will make walking safer in that area. So it's worth the investment by the township to make it an area that could be walked on much more easily and readily and be more pedestrian-friendly. And we want to be more pedestrian-friendly in Abington. That's something we think about all the time. So I appreciate your input.
Other comments?
Just one. Joe, your point is excellent and well taken. And believe me, when you say you want to be involved, and when folks here want to be involved, I know everyone has signed. Everyone, hopefully, signed in with your email addresses. You're going to receive more information on this, and believe me, this is the first of many meetings. We're eager, we're excited to have resident input, to get residents involved in this whole process, because as I said, we're really trying to start from the resident and community viewpoint. The reason that we don't have sort of extensive detail is one of the things that these grants, if the grants are approved, if the Board of Commissioners, my colleagues and I vote to approve these grants, one of the things the grants will pay for is engineering, which is required. There has to be a whole engineering study of the intersection with regard towards taking down the properties to PennDOT specs and the designing of the road. So that's where we don't have a whole lot of design details. But as those move forward and as there are decisions to be made and places for resident input, believe me, you will absolutely completely be in the loop. I mean, I know you are right there. You are like, you're like resident zero in this area. And so you will have input. You will know what's going on. You'll be involved.
Other comments? Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Len Zangwell. I live at 621 Kelly Lane, and I had a couple of questions. I'll just put them out there for random answering. One, to pick up the pedestrian theme, is there also will be plans for, say, bike lanes, particularly in Susquehanna, to have better bicycle access to that intersection? I don't want to think about biking on 611 very much, but certainly Susquehanna can. I've used it. It's kind of scared of biking Susquehanna right now. And another question I had is, I'm coming west on Susquehanna from the Y. Do you have any sense of how the left turn and the traffic flow will be improved from that direction with the new realignment, assuming you get the properties? And my third question, well, I'll do those two first. I have one more after that.
Who would like to take those, Tara or Jim?
As far as the bike lanes, the township had you may be familiar with a master bicycle plan. So the bicycle lanes are not part of this project, but that's another chapter in our projects that we're working on globally throughout the township. And which was the turning lane?
Coming left. I'm coming west. I think west from the Y across. I can't really see how this would. I'm hoping it would improve the throughput and the left-hand turns and right-hand turns, for that matter, on the 611, because those properties seem to be staying the same on the eastern side of 611.
Yeah, this grant does not address any property acquisition on the east side of Old York Road, say where the bank sits now,
right,
where we would probably, ideally, if you could acquire some of the bank property and add additional lanes in there, that would work better. But unfortunately, the bank's properties are not part of this acquisition and are not available for sale. We've actually talked to the bank about their interest in maybe selling, and they're quite content.
I'm sure they are. It's good property. And my last question, because I overall think it's a good idea. It's a thoroughly hideous intersection. The township match, is there a fund for this kind of stuff the township would dip into to pay for this? How would it be funded? Is there money in the budget for this year?
It is in the capital fund budget for 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's money to pay for it. Okay. That's all my comments. Thank you.
Mr. Blumenthal, please.
Jay Blumenthal, 286 Forest Avenue in Elkins Park. I was approached by Jim Marshall on many occasions to go over the financial possibilities of an ROI on this. And many times Jim said it would only take 2 minutes and ended up to be a half hour or 45 minutes. But what I wanted to talk about was not that. It's talking about the safety of this project. They used to say that somebody would have to be killed at an intersection before they put up a traffic light. This is a bad intersection. It's a narrow sidewalk, and somebody could fall off that sidewalk and take one step down and get hit. That's what scares me, and that's what this thing would change, this improvement. It's very important, because I don't like walking on that sidewalk, and I've done it on a number of occasions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Someone in the back, yes. Hello.
I'm Devin Snyder, 1923 Guernsey, right over there. I just had 3 questions. One is, will the sidewalk get bigger in front of Vintage or not? I can't get the answer on that.
As part of this grant, the answer is no, but there is a third grant that has been applied for if approved, and if we were able to acquire some of the building there.
Just like
Lots of
take the
ifs
front of
there.
the building off, just like shave the front
Yeah,
off.
there's a problem with that, and it's because the building's right on
Because
the road.
that, I mean, it's great that you make the intersection safer, but that in no way helps me. I live on 1900 Guernsey. I work at Abington Presbyterian Church. I could not walk my children to nursery school.
Yeah, that will still be a
Challenge.
problem
It's a
at
challenge.
this stage. We hope to correct that at some point. Now, the only thing that might be a little better is that there might be an access point behind the Vintage through going forward, but that's
That'll be
not
helpful.
ideal either.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, number 2. If you're on Susquehanna going left on Aldrich Road, there's now 3 lanes, like a right-hand lane, a straight, and a left. Do you get an arrow? Will we get an arrow to make a left?
Have we got that detail?
There is an answer for that question.
It better be
Do you have
yes.
It's complicated, but it's not enough.
Again, due to where I work and how long it takes to get home, the arrow would be helpful. Okay.
Want to ask your third question?
Yeah, I'll ask my third one, and then go ahead. And then if we're going with some sort of, what do we call that setting on the end, a plaza, okay. Who's responsible for cleaning up the plaza if it has a SEPTA bus on it? Is that SEPTA or is that the township? Because that corner right now is filthy. Filthy. So who empties the trash can and makes sure everybody puts the trash in the trash can? Well, I don't expect it to really be you, but.
I would do it. Can I keep it?
Yeah, now it's your turn.
These are great questions, and this is exactly like the neighbor perspective questions and feedback we're looking for. Let me see if I can try to take these correctly. So, right, with this grant per se, the Vintage area would not be involved, but as was discussed before, this is the reason we have been in a lot of extensive conversations with the good folks who are the partners, the business partners who own Vintage. And we've been talking with them. They've been sort of really receptive to just talking about hypothetical future plans. There's nothing I can go into. Obviously, we need to start with step 1 before we sort of move on to steps 2 and 3. But I can tell you that the Vintage partners have been really great and receptive to having conversations, and they understand that sidewalk is an issue, as do the owners of the former bike shop property. So believe me, this is not lost on us. Even though this isn't in this schematic here, as part of a broader vision moving forward, it is absolutely essential. Question 3 was the trash. What was question 2? Left-hand turns. Okay. So I have been asked for years, before I even became commissioner, about a left turn arrow. And as traffic safety officer Freed has explained to me, and he's here, so if I'm wrong about this, he'll pipe it, he'll gong me or something. That's an old reference. As he has explained, this intersection, PennDOT has very strict standards for absolutely everything, for getting a stop sign, for changing a speed limit, a traffic light, anything you want to do, you have to meet these incredibly stringent PennDOT standards. And so along those lines, this intersection right now does not qualify for a left turn arrow. Part of it is the configuration, which is something that is going to be improved and kind of open us up for that possibility. But another part of the problem, and this is it's kind of paradoxical, is the traffic volume. I mean, we think of that as an incredibly busy intersection, but so many people are avoiding that intersection by making those turns I talked about, Huntington Road on the east side, and particularly Highland Avenue on the west. And again, Highland Avenue means Guernsey. Highland Avenue means Rockwell. That the volume is sort of artificially suppressed by all the people who know this is a terrible intersection and avoid it. So as this intersection becomes properly aligned, and as people start seeing that it's actually a usable intersection instead of a complete nightmare, that will move us closer. And believe me, we will push PennDOT hard for this to getting that arrow. But that's also, I know for me that's been That's been part of the vision. It's not something it's never something I lose sight of, and it's not something I'm gonna let up on at all with regard to getting that arrow. Keeping it clean, I think it's going to be a collaborative effort. I mean, as far as who's actually responsible, I guess initially when if the plaza is public plaza, township owned, it would fall to the township. Right now, property maintenance, just like upkeep of buildings, taking care of trash like that falls to the property owners, and obviously there are some empty, blighted properties there, and in addition to bad conditions of the building themselves, you get the trash building up. But I will go out there every day and check it if I have to. We will keep this clean because this plaza, the idea of this plaza is at the intersection that's the heart of our township. This plaza is going to say, you are in Abington. There's a town here, there's a town center, and you are there. And so it's going to be a point of great pride. It will be kept clean. Devin, you have my word on that. All right, thank you,
John. Any other questions from the residents?
Marilyn Bilger, 1922 Guernsey Avenue. Lately, I've found in developments that the sidewalks are so high, like over in Huntington Valley, that it takes a monster to get up onto the curb. And my question is, how far up are the curbs going to be, and how wide are the sidewalks going to be? Because there's a lot of elderly people around, baby carriages around. Is there a new way of looking at the width and the height of curbs for people like me?
Sure. It's a good question. Terry?
Well, the width of the sidewalks are going to be 5 feet. As far as the height, I don't have a number on the height, but we would have the ramps on the corners to be able to get up to the sidewalks, certainly.
Other resident questions or comments? Yes. I saw a hand. Oh, student. Happy to have you here.
I'm a part of the Future Cities and I go to Queen of Angels.
Could you state your name, please?
Carrie Feidler.
Yes.
I go to Queen of Angels, and I'm a part of the Future Cities, and I'm here to learn about your guys' corner. And my little brother goes to Play and Learn, yeah. He goes to Play and Learn down the street from this corner. And I was wondering, what are you guys going to do for the little kids if we're going to take the bus one day, or one day we're going to walk down the street? What are you going to do for the little kids that are on the bus?
John, you have an answer for that? Great question. I don't know if we have an answer.
That was an awesome question. And I'll tell you, my daughter, who is now 13 and rolls her eyes at me, she went to Play and Learn, and I walked her to school every day, and I'll tell you, I would throw her up on my shoulders and, haul it in order to get across Old York Road. So that is a very good question. I think for this corner and this intersection, obviously what we're looking at is to make it really pedestrian friendly. So for folks walking, for folks with strollers, folks of different abilities, it's an accessible corner to walk on. But moving up a little bit in the Play and Learn direction, I think the idea here is not only to obviously make this corner a safer place for people using all different modes of transportation, but also if we can do this project successfully using these grants that we're talking about, this would be like a model, almost like a blueprint or a template for this kind of development all up and down the Old York Road corridor, including right there in front of Play and Learn, and even on some of our other big commercial corridors as well. So it's as far as Play and Learn per se, this wouldn't necessarily affect that, but ideally we start the ball rolling on something on kind of principles of corridor development that really would be applied all the way up, including in front of Play and Learn. Thank you for that great question.
Thank you. Any further questions from residents? Any comments? Committee, as you've heard these various questions and comments from commissioners and the public, do you have any further thoughts or questions before we go to the action items on our agenda? If not, We have three motions that need to be put into play, and would the items D, E, and F, I can read those, or you can read them yourselves, but they relate to the two grants as well as a cooperation agreement with the Montgomery County Redevelopment Authority. As you all know, as committee members, we're doing this as advice to the Board of Commissioners that they move forward with these three items. Would someone be willing to offer those as motions?
Sure. I make a motion to support the Multimodal Transportation Fund Program grant from the Department of Community and Economic Development for the acquisition and demolition of real estate for the Old York Road, Susquehanna Road project. Favor?
Second that.
You'll second that. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. We have a second item. Can I have someone offer an entertainment of that motion, please?
Sure. A motion to support the Multimodal Transportation Fund Program grant from PennDOT for road improvement to the intersection of Old York and Susquehanna roads.
Second? Anybody?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. And then we have a third motion, which is an F. Would anyone like to offer that?
I'll make the motion to enter into a cooperation agreement with the Redevelopment Authority.
Very good. A second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. That actually concludes all of our business for this evening, but before we close, I would like to just again offer thanks to the group of people that have been working on this, and led by Tara and Larry Mateo from the Township and Jim Marshall from our committee, as well as the two commissioners, Commissioner Sanchez and Commissioner Spiegelman. We would also be remiss if we didn't recognize, and I know that she's been recognized already this evening, but Madeline Dean, State Representative Madeline Dean's efforts in getting these grants through, and particularly Kathleen Joyce, who has kind of held our hand through this whole process and made the necessary phone calls to the various state officials to get these approved. So again, thank you to you folks as well. And with that, we will adjourn our meeting for this evening. Thank you all for coming out, and we'll keep you posted. Right, John?
Absolutely.